warm room. So,
Robin, I've been doing this for over 20 years and I still don't know as much as I should.
Okay.
me too.
Pretty much. Don't
I've
worry
been
about
here
it.
20 years
All
and I
right.
still don't know.
You good to go?
1 second. The stream is taking a little bit.
The luck I have is somebody asked me a question and say, well, let me ask the board. I can get away with that.
All set. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the May 5th, 2021 Sutton Conservation Meeting. I got to read this in. Due to the current COVID-19 crisis, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, this meeting of the Conservation Commission is being held remotely via Zoom. To join the meeting, visit www.zoom.us/join and enter meeting ID 889-8699-6733 and password 862495. This meeting will be broadcast and recorded on local public access station Verizon 31 and Charter Spectrum 191 and live streamed on the town's YouTube channel when available. Pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 20, no person shall address a meeting of the public body without permission of the chair. Individuals who would like to participate should state their name and address after being recognized by the chairperson. In an effort to ensure transparency to our viewers at home, the chat function is not available. Welcome, everybody. First, we'd like to welcome Robin Jakes as she's no longer an alternate. She's jumped up to the position of a full board member. So welcome, Robin. We're excited to have you continue. First thing up is 630, 99 Boston Road, Pat Doherty of Midpoint Engineering and Consulting. Pat, floor is yours.
Thank you.
My bad. I got to read this in.
Okay.
I'm too excited to get you guys off. In accordance with the provisions of MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and the Sutton Bylaw 12, Wetlands Protection, the Conservation Commission will hold a hearing to review a request for determination RDA submitted by Patrick Doherty, Webster, Mass. The hearing will be held on Wednesday, May 5th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. The project consists of removal of overgrown brush and other vegetation from a previously disturbed area at 99 Boston Road. Pat, now you're good to go.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm Patrick Doherty with Midpoint Engineering. Here on behalf of Galaxy Sutton and Galaxy Woodbury LLCs. I'm here talking about a part of the Pleasant Valley Crossing Shopping Center. The shopping center has been built out in phases. The approvals had noted area in the northwest portion of the site that was not permitted through Concom or Planning Board, but was a future residential portion of the shopping center, and that has gone through MEPA, and MEPA has reviewed the environmental impacts on that. But again, it was never approved through the conservation with the notice of intent or the planning board with site plan approvals. The area is part of the formal gravel operations, so it has been disturbed. We have not done any work up there, but for doing some utilities and creating a secondary access down to Boston Road. So, for the past 6 or 7 years or so, the brush has been growing and it's overgrown now, so that there's some small poplar trees and small pine trees as well as overgrown brush. We are hoping to develop this for residential purposes, and we're seeking a partner that would partner with us in doing the residential development. What we'd like to do is to brush hog and remove all of the small trees that have grown up to, I guess, in including the sides of the berms that were left as part of the gravel operations. None of those large pine trees that are in the photo now would be removed. It would just be the limit of work from the former gravel operations, so that anything on the north, east, and west of the berm that was left would not be touched. It's the way that the site was left. It's kind of a bowl. There's berms around the perimeter, and I guess on that northeast side is lower than the west side. So there's not even a fear of runoff. I did meet with the contractor that would do the work today. He would propose to do all handwork for the small trees. They would cut the trees down with, chainsaws to the ground and chip them and remove the chips. They wouldn't be excavating any stumps. And then either just prior or just after that work, they would bring the same brush hog that we use in the vacant former or vacant areas reserved for Lowe's, as well as the 2 meadow areas along Boston Road. So, we've asked for a request for determination whether this is a permitted activity. Part of it would be in 100-foot buffer zone to Woodbury Pond, as well as, I don't think it's into the 200-foot riverfront area, but part of it would be within the 100-foot buffer to Woodbury.
Thank you, Pat. Good overview. Brandon, you've been showing us some pictures. Any comments on this one?
This should be a pretty easy one. You can see the aerial photograph now. It is next to actually what really used to be Woodbury Pond. It's not much of a pond anymore.
Mhm.
A lot of this is now dry land with just a stream channel running through it till you get about, closer to Boston Road. But this area right here had been in the teal green circle, had been excavated out when it was Worcester sand and gravel.
Yes.
And there's a giant berm that follows all the way around it. I mean, when they build there, they're not even going to need silt fence because they have a 10, 15-foot high berm around the whole thing that protects the wetland resource area. So you saw those pictures. I actually took a picture. I looked back when I was doing the review of Pleasant Valley Crossing. I was seeing if I had anything, and I actually do. The area that I was just showing with all the pine trees back in 2013 looked like this. It was almost completely open.
Mhm.
In fact, I took a picture from one of the big old piles, which in 2013 I had the presence of mind to climb up. And this year, like, it didn't even cross my mind. Like, I am not climbing up that. So this is what it looked like, 8 years ago?
Yes, yeah.
You can see the berm that goes all the way around it. So Pat, you're saying that you're gonna clear up to the top of the berm, but not beyond on the outside of the berm?
That's correct.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is a pretty easy negative determination in my estimation. So, thank you.
Glad you said it. I was thinking the same thing. To the board, anyone from the board have any comments, questions? Okay, to the general public, anybody?
I see Zach, but I think he's muted.
Oh, sorry, Zach. Go ahead.
Still muted.
Zach, you're muted. Or your microphone's not working, one or the other.
Now he's muted.
While waiting for Zach, anyone from the general public? Okay. Nothing, Zach.
Try your connection, Zach. And if that doesn't work, hard reboot.
I didn't have audio when I first signed on. He might need to start over again and get back into the meeting.
Zach, is it a simple question you want to send the chat functions off? Never mind, that won't work.
I think you just logged off.
Okay.
Mind if I ask Pat a question?
Go for it.
So Pat, there was some townhouses or condos that were, I don't know, conceptualized here at one time. care to go into any future plans? You don't have to, but just, while we're waiting.
No, this is, we're treating this similar to another project we have. It's a mixed use project where, we feel our expertise lies in the commercial portion, and we'd be seeking a partner that knows the residential market better, and whether it be townhomes or we are thinking it's going to be multifamily, but what style of multifamily we don't know, and we'd certainly need to start talking with planning board as well, what they feel is allowed. There are some some provisions in the zoning, but it's not really clear. So we're going to start with what we think the market yields, and then plan from there. And then we'd certainly be back, before this commission and the planning board to present.
Entrance off Boston Road from the back end of Market 32 area.
That again, I think originally it was planned to have a primary entrance right to Boston Road and a secondary entrance for the fire department had requested, through the plaza. My feeling is that, with site distances and whatnot, the primary entrance is probably better off coming through the plaza. But, we'd have to do those studies and stuff. And I'm sure there's probably some trees or other brush that could be removed down by Boston Road to help the site distance. But again, once we know exactly what's going on there, we do all that planning and
Gotcha. One more thing while we're waiting for Zach. I just want to let you know, keep it in mind that I've never considered Woodbury Pond to be a riverfront area.
Mhm.
That's more like a ponded section of the river that does not have a riverfront area. And that pretty much ran from, just south of where this area is all the way to Boston Road.
Mhm.
But now that the dam has been breached, the ponded section's a lot smaller now.
Mhm.
And the channelized part goes a lot closer to Boston Road. So we have to flag it like it is today, not how it was before.
Mhm.
So keep that in mind when, because when you're doing the submission, because, the riverfront area is going to look different than it
Right.
did before.
Now, and I guess we should circle back with the town administrator as well. Is any more work going into seeing what would be needed to recreate the pond, or any thoughts on fixing the dam or anything?
That's a good question, and I haven't heard anything lately on it. But I know that the Office of Dam Safety is considered or classified the dam under Boston Road as a significant hazard dam, which is the highest level it can go as far as being dangerous and requires immediate action. Now, immediate in government is a relative term, but ODS is going to be requiring something that they're either going to have to do. Town's either going to have to do the required repairs or remove it. So that's a reckoning that's going to be coming up. It's got to be sooner than later, but that's probably something to be checked in with the town manager.
Yeah. Now, I know that there's been at least one group that was kind of a proponent of keeping, that a stream, being a cold water fishery. Is that any discussions, been brought before this commission or anything?
The commission's
heard anything.
That's all. It's all part of the democratic process.
Yeah. Okay.
Zach, you're back.
Can you hear me now?
We
Yeah.
can.
Okay, good. Technology sometimes. So I just had a real simple question for Brandon. I agree with the negative determination part of it, but why has the pond gone more into a stream? I felt like you guys were just covering that while I was trying to hear it.
If you remember, it was a couple of years ago that the emergency gate that lowers the elevation of the pond had rotted.
Mhm.
And in one day, the pond levels kept on going down and nobody knew why. And finally, somebody saw the gate, and then the highway department came over and pulled it out. And then that really lowered the elevation of the pond. And then the question was, well, do we rebuild the gate door? And at a higher level than the Conservation Commission, the decision was made to leave it open and keep the elevation as you see it today. Water elevations as you see it today. And as I was explaining right before you came here, Office of Dam Safety has done a review of the engineer's analysis of the dam, and it has classified it as a significant hazard dam, which requires immediate action. And the town has the choice of either doing the necessary repairs that the engineer recommended, or simply removing it. And I don't think that we've gotten to that point of actually making a hard decision on it.
Okay, thank you, Brandon.
Now I'm muted. Anybody else? If not, we'll just need a motion, close the public hearing, and then motion either way.
I make a motion to close the public hearing on 99 Boston Road.
I'll second.
Okay, Zach made a motion to close the public hearing. Robin seconded. Zach, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Robin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Jamie, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I, Bill Wentz, vote aye. Can we get a motion for a determination, please?
I'll make a motion to issue a negative determination for 99 Boston Road.
I'll second.
Zach made a motion for a negative determination on 99 Boston Road. Robin seconded. Zach, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Robin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jamie, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
And I, Bill Wentz, vote aye. Pat, thanks for coming in. Appreciate the good work. Next up is 6:40. It's now 6:47. A public hearing continued for 2530R Oakhurst Road and 1 and 3 Lackey Dam Road. You could get a motion to waive the reading on this, please.
I'll make a motion to waive the reading of 24R30R Oakhurst Road and 1-3 Lucky Dam Road.
I'll second.
Zach made a motion. Robin seconded. Zach, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Robin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mike, how do you vote? I saw him mouth aye. Jamie, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I, Bill Wentz, vote aye. Okay,
Was it aye?
welcome back. Floor is yours.
All right, thank you. This is Dan Feeney. I'm a professional engineer at Bales and Thomas, working for Skedell Properties for the proposed 646,000 square foot warehouse distribution facility at the subject site. If the commission approves, I'll share my screen. It's able to run. Let's see, share it. Yeah, hold on. I'll just give a quick overview. I know we've been here a couple of times to date. The general plan has not changed. Again, just to refresh you, the Sutton portion of the property is in the back of the site. We have Lackey Dam Road and Uxbridge out along the frontage. If you went further north up Lackey Dam Road, you would get into Sutton. You can see the town line coming here. So the rear portion of this proposed project site is Sutton. About 40% of the total lot area is in Sutton. About 40% of the building area is going to be in Sutton as well. There's a number of isolated wetlands that are in Sutton. The B series wetland straddles the Sutton Douglas town line. The CD series wetland, also isolated, is entirely in Sutton, as is the G and H wetlands back at the far northwestern portion of the site. So since we've last been here, we did receive a letter from Ecotech, who is reviewing the project on behalf of all three conservation commissions. And so we did respond to that. And the biggest thing was to add some infiltration up in the northern parking area up here. And I'll just call up a plan that kind of windows in on that area a little bit here. So, so up in this northern parking area, we looked at what the groundwater elevations are up in this area and what we could get into catch basins and into an infiltration system and still be the required 2 feet above seasonal high groundwater at the bottom of these chambers here. So 2 catch basins will get collected and discharged into the infiltration system. We have a lot of infiltration proposed for the project. It's at the down gradient side. In meeting with Alan from Ecotech, as well as Jeff Walsh from Graves Engineering, they had requested a little bit more in the upper sections of the project. We were all in agreement that the groundwater flow actually flows down towards Lackey Pond on the other side of Lackey Dam Road. So the groundwater doesn't flow to these wetlands, but just in order to provide a little bit more recharge in the upper reaches, we were providing this recharge up here. So we had reissued the plans and some supporting documentation, as well as the response letter back last Wednesday, I believe, April 28th. One other comment that Graves had made in their letter, it was just noting that when the DEP opened the file number, they had commented about this leaching catch basin, saying that if it was impervious area was getting there, it would need to treat it before infiltration. This leaching catch basin over here is just to catch overland flow. It's sort of like a low point that's being trapped out here. So it's just a leaching catch basin to catch non-impervious area from the site. So no treatments required for the overland flow from that. We also did put in another low point down here in order to provide for some additional infiltration. So from the National Grid easement, there's a high point that runs along it. So there's a fair amount of water that runs down the hill. We have pervious soils out here, but because this is so steep, a lot of that would probably reach the pavement, during a more steady rainfall event. So we did add a low point down at this point, again, in order to promote some of the infiltration from the site. So we added that infiltration, to this upper section of the site. We just responded regarding the leaching catch basin that's been proposed up here since the start of the project. We also did, at the request of Ecotech, just add in the 25, 50, and 100-foot buffer zone. So, different towns between the 3 towns have different regulatory buffer zones. So just to be consistent, all the buffers, the 25, 50, and 100 are shown throughout the site for all 3 towns. So just to recap, the work within Sutton is generally in the outer section of the buffer zone. The pavement touches in a couple of slight locations into the 100-foot buffer. If you're looking at the CD set of wetlands here, the 100-foot buffer zone does come just into this edge of pavement here. And then further down at the B set, the B set of wetlands, again, the 100-foot buffer zone does just touch really where the curb line's going in here. And then there's a little bit of off grading associated with that. So, most of the work is in the outer buffer within the town of Sutton. So that's the update. We did meet with Uxbridge Conservation Commission on Monday of this week. They are basically all set with the project. We have asked them to continue it, not close the hearing, just in case Sutton or Douglas Conservation Commissions have comments that do change the project, or if through the planning board process, there are any changes. We have been meeting with the planning board jointly. We are now set to meet individually with each planning board. Most of the remaining discussion items with the planning board deals with traffic. So some offsite traffic issues. But again, we just, rather than have you guys closing the hearings and then, needing to amend orders or reopen closed hearings and stuff, we've just been asking to continue, so. That's basically an overview of where we stand.
And thank you very much. It was, that was great. So you basically kind of answered one of my questions. Did you want us to close this out tonight? And my feeling is, this is, in my opinion, is pretty straightforward for us. But one of the three towns is going to have to go first. So would you like us to go first with the board approval, or do you want us to continue this?
I think if you can continue it, do you guys meet in 2 weeks?
We meet again on May, what date is it, Wanda? Like the 23rd or something, maybe?
May 19th.
May, I was way off, May 19th.
Yeah, if I'm happy to answer any technical questions tonight, and then if you continue it to May 19th, hopefully we have a final sign off from Ecotech at that point, hopefully Graves Engineering, on all stormwater or commission related items gives us a final sign off, and then I think at that point we'll probably do that.
Does anyone from the board have any questions?
All right, Bill, can you hear me again?
Yes, Zach.
Yeah.
Okay, I just have one general question. If we could go to the picture of the full plan. The 307. Yes. Just one general question, and I know most of this is outside the 100-foot. Where are you planning on putting all of the snow? Because I saw that in one of the documents that I was reading about the snow disposal.
Yeah, so in general, we've identified areas at the edge of the pavement, but there's a larger area back up in here.
Okay.
We've identified this area, and if we look at in that area in a little bit closer detail, you'll see it on the plans. We've identified this as a snow storage area up here, right? Like staying outside the 100-foot buffer.
Okay, thank you. If there are no further questions, I guess I'll make a motion to continue. If that's acceptable.
Yeah, sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. I'm muting now. Wanda, what time would it be on May 19th?
It will be at 6:40, same time as tonight.
Okay.
All right, I make a motion to continue 2R, 30R Oakhurst Road and 13 Lucky Dam Road to May 19th at 4:30.
I'll second.
Zach made a motion to continue.
Oh wait, sorry, 6:40, not 4:40.
Zach made a motion to continue to 6:40. Robin second. Zach, how do you vote?
Aye.
Robin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jamie, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I, Bill Wentz, vote aye. Good job. Have a great night, Dan.
All right, thanks. I appreciate the time.
Right. Next up, the board minutes of April 21st, 2021. Everyone review those. We're good to have a motion.
Board minutes, seriously, watch.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of April 21st, 2020. 2021.
With a second.
I'll second.
Zach made a motion to approve the minutes of April 21st, 21. Robin seconded. Zach, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Robin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Jamie, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I, Bill Wentz, vote aye. Next up is we have certificate of compliance for 26 Mallard Way. John Murray is the owner. Do we have everything in on that one, Wanda?
I believe John or Karen was going to attend the meeting tonight. They're looking for a certificate of compliance.
Are either one of them on the call tonight?
They're not, I don't see them, Mr. Chairman. I assume that they would know to be at the meeting, but in all honesty, I don't think it's necessary. I've checked the site out myself. I've read the engineer's letter. The site's in substantial compliance. I asked them to take down the silt fence, which they said they would be done by tonight. So I don't see a reason to extend this any further.
I know that Karen said she had another meeting at 7 o'clock as a Zoom, but she thought John might attend, and I told her I didn't think it was necessary. So maybe that's why they're not here.
I'm good with it, Brandon, if everybody else is.
I'll make a hearing nothing, I guess I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for complete certificate of compliance for 26 Mallard Way.
I'll second.
Zach made a motion for COC on 26. Robin seconded. Zach, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Robin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Vote aye.
Jamie, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I, Bill Wentz, vote aye. That was easy. Determination of applicability for 5 Sunrise Drive. This is Matt Sabrin. Do we know if Matt's on or was he planning on coming on?
Bill, I'm going to recuse myself from this one.
Okay, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think this was supposed to be in our request for determination. This was supposed to be wasn't this supposed to be a certificate of compliance?
It says on my agenda, determination of applicability review.
Yeah, that's what I had too. He asked about having somebody check the area out. I said to him, well, I'm not quite sure why you would do that. I did look up the paperwork. I did find a notice of intent here.
Right.
I don't see a certificate done on it though.
Right. So that's
I
what
think
the issue
maybe-
is, Wanda. It's not an
Yeah.
RTA. It was a certificate of compliance, and they haven't submitted the application yet.
Right, yeah.
It's going to be Raouf at Omega Engineering.
Oh, it is Ralph.
Omega, and they're not done yet.
I'll get in touch with him tomorrow.
Yeah. So like the courts say, this one's not quite yet right for a decision.
Okay.
Okay, so that's easy enough. We have discussion for 269, 271, 274, 278, 281, 284, 285, 281, and 290 Putnam Hill Road.
Yep. Mr.
Anything
Chairman,
new on this one?
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
we have 2 updates. I'll start with 290 Putnam Hill Road quickly with the Raymonds. I met with Gianni Romeo on site to review the stakeout for the work that needs to be done. The stakeout looked good to me. Walked the site with Gianni. I will say that the configuration of the driveway as it's going to be built versus what it is now, it's going to be a little more curvy than it is now, and they're going to have to take out a small clump of trees in order to make it go where it's supposed to go. They're going to be doing all the required replacement plantings, but it's definitely going to look different than it is today. And Gianni is, he's on board to get this all done by June 1st as required.
Thank you, Brandon. Anyone from the board have any questions on this one? Everything else look good, Brandon, when you were there?
At 290, and now there's a recent request by Sina Fruitin Jazzy to do some removal of trees around his house, and he is on, and I am going to bring up some pictures while he speaks.
Great. The floor is yours, sir, if you'd like to go. Just tell us what you like to do.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the time. And Brandon, thank you very much for being in touch with me. And Wanda, you have been very kind in guiding me through this step of the process and kind of like to be able to reach out to the committee. As you may see in the videos that I sent, there are several trees behind my house that are in a relatively unstable position. There was a tree that fell down and barely really missed my house a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying my family and I were in excruciating pain and fear when that happened. And my mother, we had to just go to the basement and kind of like seek safety when that happened, just because we felt so powerless, and we were worried that at any moment that tree can fall on fall on the house and hurt us. So that has been very scary. And I think as part of the incidents that happened, and we were fortunate that it didn't damage the house, but it was so close. But we think that it's almost like a PTSD that we got, that every single time that it's a little bit windy or if it's raining or anything. And, you know, we are in spring in Massachusetts, and that's not uncommon. These trees, you know, with the slightest wind, they start moving, and the sound that they just make us very, very scared. And it's almost impossible for us to live in this new house, which we love, in the city that we absolutely love. But this has been a source of great distress, and we are very scared that at any moment one of these trees can fall. I send the video. I don't know if Brandon has had access to them, but I send the videos from the day after that tree fell. And, you know, it's not that windy in the morning, but you can notice how all of those trees in a very close proximity are moving around, and at any moment, any of them can fall. So the request I was hoping to bring up to the committee was to kindly consider if we could kind of have a safety margin from these trees compared to the house, and if we could remove some of the trees that are very close and look, you know, very unstable, and if we could remove have the permission to remove them. So that's the major request that I had for you, and I would appreciate your consideration for this matter.
Thank you very much. And Brandon, thanks for sharing the pictures. Brandon, when you were out there, those trees that you were showing, if they fell, would they hit the house?
They would, yes.
Okay. So this is a situation where obviously safety trumps all, but this lot was approved to not cut beyond a certain limit. So I guess I have to turn this over to the board to have a discussion on this one and how this should be handled, because those trees are supposed to be left, but if they're deemed unsafe, that's a different story. So I guess we have to come to some agreement on this. I'm gonna get some input from the board. If anyone has some thoughts on this one.
Bill, Mike McGovern.
Yeah, go Mike.
Definitely in favor of taking the trees down. I can see, you know, we have discussions on other projects that the intent when it's approved. I think for me, just because I believe a lot of these trees are in very close to the resource area, if the question is going to be, how do we get them removed? What's the method going to be? What's the site going to look like when they're done? And what is the plantings that are going to take place in place of every tree? So I don't think it's a question that the trees need to come down and the safety. I think we're probably all going to agree on that. It's just now we're going to need to have a plan of how this can happen and do it in a quality manner. Which we're going to need a plan. I would think that we'll have to have some type of a plan that shows exactly what's going to take place and how the construction is going to happen. So I don't know if those are questions or just my what it would take for me to be able to drive by and not see a mess would be a plan that we agree to and how it would be done. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else from the board? Just so the homeowner on the, I forget your name, but on the line here, typically if a tree's in danger, we issue an emergency order to take it down right away, because obviously we want no harm to people or property or anything. We take that very serious. But in a case like this is more than one or two. So we would probably need, I'm assuming, an RDA file. this is up to the board with a plan to tell us what you'd like to do and what you're going to replant and how it's going to all lay out.
Wanda has been kind enough to send me some of those documents, and I actually filled them out, and I'm planning to drop them off sometimes, hopefully by the end of the week. So I'm a medical student, and clinics can be very, very busy. I leave at like 5:30 and come back at usually around 7 p.m. But I was planning to drop them off and kind of have them as part of the application process. But I'm not very familiar with the day-to-day process of what the requirements are, and any guidance would be appreciated. Anything that you think from my side could be helpful, I would appreciate it. Because I'm a big fan of the conservation and protecting the planet and the environment. I'm part of a green funds committee as part of my school to improve the presence of the green fund controlling the environment. But when it comes to this matter, it just makes my heart break that this is a danger to our safety. Something that I was considering was, I don't know if this is feasible or not, but instead of cutting down the entire tree, maybe we could cut them to the level at which even if they fall, they still miss the house. So we don't get rid of the entire tree from the roots, but we still them to safety. I'm not quite sure how the conservation goes about doing that, the permission wise, but that's something that I would even be willing to do, because I don't want to hurt the entire tree. I just want to.
So Bill, through the chair.
Yes, Mike.
So this is exactly what I'm getting at, is that, and I believe some of these trees are probably in the resource area. So I'm not sure we could do it with an RDA. I think a lot of this disturbance is going to be within 25 feet. And under the state regulations, you get up to a certain size tree within 25. I mean, Brandon, I would probably look to a little bit of his guidance right now to make sure that we do this correctly. But I mean, we're talking about work that would probably have to take place directly in the resource area. And then second, some of it will be within 25 feet. And not that I don't want it to be the easiest process, but maybe he can take half the tree down, and that's would be in the best interest. But when it's complicated like this, that's why engineers get involved, and there has to be a plan, because they're the ones that will know, with Brandon working together, what will be the best method to accomplish these trees to be removed. So not to reiterate, but Brandon should probably chime in. We give him a chance to say whether it's an RDA or a full filing or not. So maybe Brandon could weigh in on that.
Sure.
Just so we can get clear direction.
Yeah, sure, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Brandon.
Okay. The first thing I'll say is cutting the tree to a certain height is called pollarding. That's the fancy forestry name for it. What Sin is talking about is taking down the white pine trees. And white pines do not take very well to pollarding. They tend to die because most of the needles are near the top third of the tree, because they don't do very well in the shade. So when you cut it down more than a third of the way, it's lost most of its needles, and then it can't keep up with the needs, tree dietary needs with the amount of needles it has, and ends up dying. And then what would happen is it would start decaying, and then would probably be getting a call to remove the rest of them, because probably aesthetics, and it's going to fall anyway after about like 5-10 years. So if you're going to take it out, I would take them completely out. So that's my opinion on that. If it was, say, a red maple, those trees you can cut halfway down and they'll just grow right back. They're very resilient, but not white pines. Okay, so the rule on RDA versus an NOI, as the state calls it, is if you're working within a resource area itself, in this case would be the bordering vegetated wetland, if he's taking out any trees within the BVW itself, it's an automatic notice of intent, okay? And usually between 0 and 50 feet, a notice of intent is highly recommended, but it's not necessary in every case. So if all the work can stay in the buffer zone, I'd recommend an RDA, given the nature that this is a public safety thing. But if any trees that are in the resource area itself coming down, I would recommend a notice of intent. Okay. And the last thing I'll say is I think that this whole situation is a hindsight 2020 learning experience. It is something we just experienced down on 4-Car Lane with trees, very tall trees, especially the white pine trees, which have, they probably, of all the trees in the forest, those are the ones that snap and fall the most easily, especially these trees here. They're like 80 feet tall and taller. And this house was built in the middle of a very large pine grove. So what you see in that picture, back in 2017, 2018, when I was originally reviewing it, it was nothing but a pine grove, just like all the way around it. At one time, these trees, they were protecting themselves by creating kind of a hedgerow against high winds. And what Cindy was saying is, remember last week we had that high wind event day? That's when he was in the basement, he says, right?
Every single time. Yeah. Every single
Right. Right. So when you opened up a pine grove like this and the other development, you now have more open area, what we call fetch, for the wind to speed up. And when you do that, the trees that are along the edge of the clearing are more likely to fall down, especially when it's wet and the roots have shallow root systems as opposed to a nice deep taproot, because this roots do not grow in the water table because there's no oxygen. The needles and the leaves make oxygen, but the roots, they consume oxygen. Okay, so you tend to have shallower root systems in wetter areas, which is what we have here. And at the time that this was approved back in 2018, there were really only two hard requirements. The one was the septic system had to be 100 feet away from the wetland, which it is, and it was. And the other one is that all disturbance stay at least 25 feet away from the wetland resource area, which this one did, just barely, but it did. The thing that nobody took into consideration was the height of the trees and the fact that if you built a house that a few years down the line, which is exactly what's happening here and what the fear was over on Carr Street as well, that someone's going to come in and say, we're afraid that the trees are going to fall on the house. And then there's a whole bunch of more trees coming down that was ever intended. And if someone had come in with that, or the plan to take down all the trees that were eventually going to come down, that application might have been denied. So in 2018, if the applicant at the time had come in to take down as many trees that are eventually going to come down, because now it's a public safety issue and the commission has no choice but to agree. In 2018, they might have thought differently about how they would have permitted it or not permitted. So this is a classic case, and something to think about for the future. Otherwise, this is now public safety and the commission has no choice. But keep those two things in mind. If the work's in the buffer zone only, then I recommend RDA. If any of the trees that someone wants to take down are actually in the BVW, it's a notice of intent. And the last thing on my mind just slipped. And obviously come up with a replanting plan. Obviously not with white pines, but maybe another kind of hardwood that will not grow as tall or be as brittle as white pines. Okay, that's it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Did that help answer any of your questions?
So my understanding is that I need to submit this RDA, correct?
Yeah.
As part of that, do I also need, as part of the same plan, do I need to have a replanting plan, or that comes at a later time?
You need to have the replanting plan with the RDA, and you have to specify and show the areas of what trees are coming down. So what I would recommend, Sina, is to use the plan that you already have that was approved by conservation, and then just use like red ink to draw in the areas in which trees are coming down, and then where the plantings are going to be. And at the same time, I know that Tony Romeo is still working on the fixes that were required by the commission from this winter, correct? So if you could, it would be good if you could incorporate these new plantings and have Tony do those as well.
Okay. And for the number of trees that have to be replanted, does it have to do with the number of trees that go out, or how
Yeah,
does that work?
it's usually 1-to-1, but with especially large trees, I've seen the commission do 2-to-1, so it's their call.
Do you have a rough idea how many trees you think are gonna come out?
I do. I was just doing a ballpark estimate based on, I was imagining if any of them fall, where they would roughly come down. And I think I'm thinking about between 15 and 20 trees. Yeah, around the house.
So that's gonna be, the plan, as Brandon mentioned, marking it and definitely coming in with a plan of what you're gonna replant. And I put some thought into that. They do have to be native species, meaning
Yes.
native to the area, and a local nursery could help you out with that. We probably have a list somewhere too. But give some thought to that, and we can put you on, or Juana can get you, as soon as she has the paperwork, we'll get you on the next available meeting, and we'll get you through this.
Right, and I would also recommend trees for wet sites, not dry sites.
Wet sites.
Through the chair, one more thing, Bill.
Yes,
Does
Mike.
he understand does he understand the wetland line? Like, is he very familiar of what we're talking about? Is he
Well,
understanding?
I was gonna ask
So
that too.
he's just gonna take a plan. Is he aware? I mean, does he know where the wetland line is? And does he understand that if he says he's not going in it, that means the trees can't fall into it? I'm just worried about it being worse than it is now when he's done. Granted, the trees may be gone, but I did a site visit there, and there's a lot that we're letting go already inside this grove as far as the quality of the resource area and in the buffer zone. And 20 trees is a substantial project. When he comes back, I want to know, like, is the wood chips being hauled off site? What are they doing with the logs? How are they going to get the trucks in? Even if it's buffer zone work and it's an RDA, they're going to be using mats, not just creating open soil runoff issues after the trees are gone. I'm just going to say, I'm definitely going to want to see this project done at a higher level than just somebody coming in with bucket trucks driving all over the place, creating open soil. You know, I think we all know what we're talking about. Problem, the trees are gone, but now we've got other issues.
You do not have to use an engineer. You know, obviously, we don't want to spend your money, but this might be a project that you might want to consult an engineer on with, is that many trees. And like Mike said, you don't want to make more damage as a result of cutting the tree down, but that's entirely up to you on that. And then the wetlands were marked. I don't know if the boundary markers are still there. But that's,
Tony Romeo was required to refresh the wetland flags earlier in the year, which he did, but I don't know, I don't think that he went all the way around the house. I just think he went to the side of the house near where the well is. So that might be something that Tony Romeo could help Sino with.
Like I said, so Bill, it's just to have a good understanding of how to make this happen correctly. There's definitely no doubt about trees that are long enough to reach the house. I'm in favor of coming down. I just want that to be clear. So I don't have any issues with the trees coming down. It's just the process that it happens in.
and I think we all agree we'd like to work with you as quick as possible so you don't have to have the fear or the worry. And I don't blame you. You don't want any personal damage. So it might make sense to talk to Tony if you could, and then, if you have any questions before then, you can reach back out to us, but that would be my suggestion. Try to get that paperwork in and then get on the next available meeting you're on or can be on.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, thank you. Brandon, anything else on Putnam Hill Road of all those addresses?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
I
Next
have,
up,
oh, Bill, sorry, I just
Yeah.
have one question. For Brandon, more or less. Do we, just out of curiosity, why was the house built so close to the tree line?
The house was not put where it was supposed to be. That was because of the Romeos.
Okay.
Right, so it's close. It's shifted more. If you at the picture you're looking at right now, the house should have been further to the left than it is.
Okay.
How much of a difference that would have been made with an 80-foot plus tall tree? Not, excruciatingly, much, but this house was not built where it was supposed to. But when you take into consideration the height of the trees and the size of the trees, and another 15 to 20 trees that are coming down as part of this application, if that had come in back in 2018, like the full amount, then I know the commission would have thought differently about it.
Bill, Mike McGovern
Yes.
again. So Brandon, it's a good point about the house, but it's in the wrong spot probably by 30 feet, I think, and 30 feet of more trees coming down towards the wetland. Just the case of, something gets approved and it's not even close to being followed. I had made a comment earlier tonight that there had already been a lot of concession on our point on this property. So another question, we started talking about Romeo. I wanted to stick, where are we? We're getting close to June 1st. I still see all the black silt fence. I don't see any work that's been done in there. Are they getting ready to do all those plantings that we're missing soon? I mean, does that work take place after the trees come down now? We don't want to be unmindful. So if we need all this construction to go on to take these trees down, should we ask Romeo to hold off on the plantings till after we sort out this? I think that Brandon did make a comment of working together. So yet again, we have the plantings plus the new plantings, and that should probably be a combined effort just so that we don't have new plantings getting taken out by these pine trees coming down.
That's a good point.
I just think this gets really complicated. I know we're trying to do it really simple, and I'm not disagreeing with it, but there's a lot going on in there of reasons that led us to today, I guess. It started back when they didn't follow the plan. The house is not only in the wrong spot, but I believe it's a lot larger than what got approved. I remember when we did the site visit, one of the boundary markers, I believe, was in his sidewalk, several feet from the corner of his house, which was the limit of disturbance.
Yep.
That was off by, I don't even want to say the number because I'm not sure, but a lot. And now we're faced with all these trees that have to come down that I bet when we see it on a plan, he's into the resource area. And some of it will be because the house is off by a lot. And just think of how much can go wrong with trucks on wheels trying to get to all these trees. I don't think that maybe everybody fully understands what it's going to take for this project to happen. I'm not saying an RDA, but I hope when he comes back, there's a really good plan how to make this all work out with, I don't want to say there's an enforcement order because we're all working together, but with the things that aren't right to try to close out the order of conditions and now all this new work that has to happen. I think there's a lot going on this property.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, I think that Mike makes a good point that the plantings that Tony Romeo is supposed to be doing on the right side of the house should probably wait because that's the only way in really, because the left side, you can see that little rise there, that's the leach field. So they can't bring equipment over the leach field. They would have to go around the right side of the house, which is where all the restoration plantings are supposed to go anyway. So you don't want to put the restoration plantings and then have to run over them.
So Mike made it's a very good point by everybody, and I think Mike said June 1st, I believe, was the cutoff date. Was that the date for Tony to finish that?
But Tony, I can't remember. I know that was for Gianni at 290, but I think the requirement was that they had to get the trees in first thing in the spring, and like now is like go time to do that.
But so I think it's great time to plant, but it's also not if you're gonna run it over with a truck. So
Right.
I think being this a public meeting, we're making it pretty clear that we want Tony to finish what he's supposed to do, but we want him to understand and work with the homeowner and the future applicant to not plant anything that's gonna have to be dug up again or moved out. So let's work together and try to get all this done. So our suggestion would definitely be to reach out to Tony Romeo, the builder of this, and work with him on what he still needs to do. So you're not doing it twice. Anybody else on this one? Okay, moving right along. The next thing is a site visit request or a site visit for John and Denise Cruller. It was listed as 39 8 Lots Road. That's their mailing address. The property, they were the past owners, was 91 Dodge Hill Road. I did take a drive by there. The septic system's in. They did a nice job. However, it's not loomed and seeded. Other than that, it looks good, but I don't think that's enough. I think my understanding is going to be loomed and at least one mowing before we can sign off on it, I believe. Is that correct? You're muted.
Yeah, it should be about 70 to 75% coverage by grass at a minimum, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, definitely, I mean, I didn't get out, but at a drive-by, it definitely still appears to be mostly gravel. And I believe that's probably because they were finishing this project through the winter, which probably made sense. So I think we might want to reach out and just want to send a letter or follow up with them that needs to be loomed and seeded from our end to be done. Any other discussions? I got a couple other things, but is there anything else from anybody? Guys are real quiet tonight. We talking about having a form, I believe that can be signed. I'd like to put it on the next meeting if possible, Wanda, that will give Brandon, if everyone's in agreement, access to sign any enforcement orders or other forms for us instead of having to email it to us and have us print it off and sign it or have Wanda send it for us to DocuSign. It will give him signing abilities. Does anyone on the board have any questions or problems or concerns with that? Clearly, he would reach out to us before just signing anything, but it would give him the capability to sign his name and not have to wait for one of us.
Mr. Chairman, I can bring up the document.
Okay. That'd be great, Brandon.
Okay, just let me bring it up.
Through the chair, I would be in favor of that. I know sometimes it gets hectic when we're trying to do those things, and I just think that would be a good tool for us to have Brandon be able to sign them.
I am also in favor of the proposal.
Okay, just so everybody knows exactly what's going on. Here's the document. Okay, so it's a delegation authority. And it would give the conservation consultant, it doesn't name me specifically, just the conservation consultant, the following powers on behalf of the commission. One, authority to issue a verbal cease and desist order, the authority to sign written cease and desist orders, the authority to issue enforcement tickets for warnings or fines, the authority to submit documents like warnings and fine tickets, which is going to be the majority of it, to district court, and then the authority to represent the commission at district court. And then it would have everybody's signature here, you know, DocuSign like you've been doing for the permits. So that's the beginning and end of it right there.
I personally think it's great, and I would be happy to vote on this tonight, but I almost feel that because it's, you know, a delegation of authority and we're putting it on town letterhead, that maybe this should go to the next meeting and to vote on at a public meeting, just so if anyone from the public can give their input. Is everyone in agreement on that?
I agree with you, Bill. I think we should put this as an actual like agenda item.
Thanks, Zach. Wanda, is there some time at the next meeting?
Oh, yes, there is. Well, you've got 6:30 and 6:40 filled. I don't know what's gonna come in within the next couple weeks. And so we
Put it
can
on at
do it under
6:50,
board
please.
business and you can always move it up or, yeah, we can put it on at 6:50.
Well, I'm wondering, and maybe you guys correct me, is board business enough that people see it, or should it be listed as a public hearing? I just want to make sure we do this all correctly.
Either
so
one.
there's no-
Yeah, it will have to go on because you're gonna have to vote on it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, it's Jamie.
Yes, Jamie.
Two things. One is I think that Brandon had referred to the conservation consultant. I think that it's important that we insert his name, Brandon, as conservation consultant, but I think that it's important that it be specific to an individual if we're going to be delegating signatory authority. So that's number one. And number two, I don't know that it really needs, in terms of a public hearing, I think it definitely should be run by town council. And if they suggest that it needs to go through a public hearing, that we do that. But all we're doing is really giving him a power of attorney that allows him to act on our behalf. He doesn't have the authority to do anything that would normally fall within our authority and jurisdiction.
I agree. And that's a good point, Jamie, to list his name. I like that because I feel we all work very well together and we all know and trust Brandon. So he's going to have our best interests. Wanda, would you mind putting that on at 6:50 if everyone's in agreement? And then Jamie's point of town council, maybe shooting this down to Jim and just seeing if he wants to send it out or,
I need to know what you want me to put it as, delegation of authority. Is that what you want me to write?
Sounds like a good title to me.
Okay.
I don't know that it's necessarily delegation of authority or power of attorney. It would probably be a power of attorney. Because we're not really delegating authority. He's going to be acting on our behalf, right?
Okay.
With our, acting as agents for us. So there again, that would be a town council. That would, I'm sure that there's another document within the document library in the town that accomplishes a comparable objective that they could kind of figure out very easily how to either adjust this one or suggest a different one that accomplishes the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in agreement. We're probably all on the right track. They might want to tweak something.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
do you want this to go to town council? And if so, you have to approve it because the town council is definitely going to charge for the review.
Yeah, that was a great point brought up by Jamie. I mean, I think that's something we all have to decide on. I'm not opposed to it going. I don't want to delay things and I don't want to spend the town's money if not needed, but I want to make sure we're okay to do whatever we need to do. If Jim or someone in the town can say this is okay, I'm fine with that.
Brandon, can you send me that form and I can probably get it to Jim and see what we need to do?
Brandon, did you manuscript this or did you pull it out of a document library or have you used something comparable to it in the past?
That is a novel document that I created myself.
Okay. Yeah, I think that it definitely needs to have, I think town council definitely needs to take a look at it to make sure that I's are dotted and T's are crossed. Because we're agents of the town and we're giving Brandon the authority to act on behalf of us as agents of the town. So I don't know if that really presents an issue, but it certainly, I think that it would be a prudent, or like I said, Jim may have a power of attorney form that he can pull out of his document library and email it to us and say, if you use this, it's town council's already had the opportunity to review it and it'll work here as well. That's all.
For good points, by anybody else have any comments on this one? So Wanda, if you could send that down to Jim, please, and then if possible, I'd like to keep it on the meeting to the next or 2 weeks from tonight at 6:50, whatever
I
time
can
we
do
said,
it at
just
6:50, right? I have to figure out when I'm going to call it, so I'll just put power of attorney.
Yeah, we can always tweak the name if we need to. I got a nice email today from a town town resident, sorry, I couldn't think of the word, who's interested in the possibility of an associate member of our board. And I said that I emailed back, the timing was great because one of our associates just bumped up to a full-time member. So I was gonna have this person reach out to the parties to be, but I just wanted to see if everyone is in agreement. That's probably not a bad idea to bring another associate member on, especially when we got people banging at the door to come in. We haven't scared enough people off yet, I guess, so. Everybody don't care with that.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, and he's been in town for quite a while, and he has an interest, and he's been watching our meetings, and he's still coming back to watch our meetings, so I guess that's a good thing. Last thing, I did get a call a couple of weeks ago and actually went and saw it myself. It was actually a call from my neighbor. So I'm not going to vote on this, but it was at 160 Dodge Hill Road. It's the pipe that goes under Dodge Hill Road. A couple of years ago, Matt Stencil and his crew came, well, a year and a half, 2 years ago, and cleaned out the inlet of the pipe. But I took a look at it, just because I got the call. I definitely don't think it's a conservation issue, but I wanted to mention it because it was mentioned to me. It appears the pipe is either collapsed going under Dodge Hill Road or verge of collapsing, but very, very, very little water is going through. So Wanda said she would reach out to Matt Stencil just to ask him to take a look at that, but I wanted to bring it up because it was mentioned to me.
I sent the email earlier to Matt.
Where exactly?
Good, thank you, Wanda.
Where exactly is this, Bill?
That would be at the end of Dodge Hill Road before 159, the house that John Goslin built.
By
Right
Central-
with your hand, right there, yep. The pipe that goes from the field on the left to the field on the right is basically,
there.
I believe it to be collapsed. In fact, there's a hole in the top of the ground now. It looks like it's starting to become a sinkhole.
Yeah.
And the water is really not draining. As you can see, it's a fairly new picture because that house is there, but the water is not draining at all. And I believe it's actually might be even getting blocked over on Leland Hill as well. I mean, both those pipes are probably older than all of us put together, so.
Yeah, we've actually investigated this one here as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, the water comes through here as well.
That one's still coming through a little bit. I took a walk over there over the weekend, but the other one on Dodge Hill, I mean, it's just so easy for me to walk through. It's coming through, but when there were days pouring rain, it's still trickling. So it's either blocked or it's collapsed or both.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, is part of the construction of this house, which was done through a notice of intent, the commission gave the owner who owns all of this here the ability to keep on mowing this wet meadow.
Yeah.
Which was cow pasture at one time. The old barn was right here,
Yeah.
right? So in order to keep the wet meadow active, there's an in perpetuity condition in that order of conditions that allows the owners of this property in this house the ability to cut this, like they hay it a couple of times a year, which would help to, it goes into this area. You can see that the right of way for the road definitely flares out right here, but historically, this entire area has been maintained by the owner of this house. So, coming in here to clean it out I would consider that part of the in perpetuity condition with that permit.
Okay. So I'm hoping Matt can get his guys out there to look at it, and I don't know, maybe they can snake a pipe through or chase through. But I wanted to bring that up. Any other unexpected business or anything else? for
Yeah,
tonight?
there was 189 Leland Hill Road about that clear cutting.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
It was seen.
Brandon, right where your cursor is, if you go right, that whole area has now been cut pretty much from the yellow to the triangle where the black line is. Everything's cut in there. Yep.
Yeah, I just put in this yellow line to help because it looks like that the wood line is right about where the yellow line is.
Yeah.
And there's another black line here that I didn't get a chance to finish, but that looks like the other, the northern end of the historically cleared area. So the gas line comes right through here.
Yeah.
So I was originally thinking that might have been part of their annual maintenance, but Chairman Bill was saying that it comes right up into this corner.
Which could, yes, it does. And maybe that's still there right away. And if it is, it was brought to my attention. I went over and there's no doubt you can see it, especially if you come back down Leland Hill, it's even more obvious. So that's why I wanted to share it. I believe Wanda was sending a letter to the homeowner just to question.
You know, and I recall a couple of weeks ago, Mrs. Urbanowski spoke to me and she said that, you know, that the gas line does go through the back of her property and they're always doing something. So maybe it could have been that they're doing that. But I can send a letter out to the homeowner at, what was he, 161, I believe it is.
Well, do we
I'll have to
believe,
look at
do
it.
you,
189.
Brandon, are you able to figure out whose property that is?
Yeah, it belongs to the people
Monty.
at this house right here.
Okay.
And that is 189 Leland Hill Road.
Yeah, and that's Mr. and Mrs. Albert Monty. I believe that's their name. I got the paper here. Yep, Albert Monty. Map 19, parcel 59.
All right, perfect. So we'll wait to hear from them. Maybe it's just the pipeline.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Anything else from the board?
Don't think so.
We got a lot of projects going in town. Are we all caught up to date on site visits? Or does anything need to be done? Wanda, has anyone called for anything?
No, the only one I had was the 91 Dodge Hill that I put the wrong address in. That's where the people who owned it live.
Yep.
At the 139.
Okay.
So other than that, I guess if I can figure, yeah, I think we're done with that. What am I doing?
Anything else for anybody tonight? Or we good?
Mr. Chairman, we have 11 Tucker Lane and some cutting and clearing and fill that was brought in to bring up to the board. I issued a verbal cease and desist on Monday and a written cease and desist signed by yourself, Mr. Chairman, today to Mr. Ziccarella.
What address was that?
11 Tucker Lane.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't see it on the agenda, so I would have missed it. Thanks, Brandon.
Yeah,
If you
this
want
is
to fill
this
us
is
in.
a situation that has to be brought up right now. So let me really quickly bring it up on the map and also bring up some pictures. And let me bring up the pictures first. So this one goes back to 2019. The house has a tight tank, which a notice of intent was filed and an order of conditions permit issued in 2019. The work was done pretty quickly and a certificate of compliance was issued also in 2019. So it's actually, this one's pretty cut and dry because the commission has, prior a plan on this. This shows the approximate location of the BVW. So there's, we have record of this, and a complaint came in, I believe on Monday, and I got out there right away. So didn't Mike. And Mr. Ziccarella was gracious enough to allow me to walk onto his property and take a look around. And he and his contractor, Andrew Manasian, are on the call tonight as well to represent themselves. But we definitely have some issues going on with unauthorized clearing and spreading of fill material right into Tucker Pond. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share some pictures And I'm going to give it back to you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ziccarella and his contractor are on.
Welcome, guys. If you want to give us an overview of what's going on, we'd be happy to listen and see what you're doing.
Printer.
Pardon?
Go ahead, Andrew.
That's what I've been doing.
Yep.
I was hired to plant the lawn in the backyard, and I moved some loom from the front yard to the backyard, spread it and raked it, and basically that's what I've done. I didn't do any cutting or trees or anything like that. They were done a long time before I got here. I put up silt fence like I was asked. I was just wondering if you guys would let me plant the new lawn back there. I didn't know I was supposed to get a permit. Can you shut that off? Thank you.
Brandon, was this area already disturbed?
No, you see this picture right here?
Yeah.
This area back here was part of the back lawn, but the back lawn wasn't particularly big. You can see right here where the cursor is, that's little bush, and it's got some mulch underneath it. But I'd say somewhere around where the date is, right? That was about the back end of the yard. The rest of it, there was a buffer of lawn maple trees between the lawn and the open water of Tucker Pond. Okay, I think that one of the things I could do here as well is show the approved plan. So here we go. Everybody see that? So this is the plan that was approved in 2019 when the Ziccarellas purchased the property. The Title V inspection was done, and the verdict was that the septic system had to be upgraded. But because of the tight nature of everything on this property, the solution was a tight tank. And now a tight tank is basically just a glorified septic tank that has to be pumped out. There's no leach field, so there's no infiltration of septic effluent on site. It all has to be pumped out.
Okay.
So it's a really tight situation because of the lack of area to put a leach field, and the distance to the BVW and the water and whatever else the Board of Health required. Okay, so the tight tank is off the southwest corner of the house. You can see here 19 feet off the corner of the house right over here. The limited disturbance is right here with the wattles. It didn't mean that this area was allowed to be completely clear cut, but they obviously needed enough room to be able to work and put in the tight tank. Here's the old cesspool, which was so close to the BVW and the water that obviously that was, a bad idea. And the current situation is a major improvement. But as you can see, this is the only area that was approved to be worked in. While what I saw was a clearing of this area right in here, just to the east or, above the area of approved disturbance. Then it goes all the way down to the water in here. So there was no permit to do anything in here. So to go back to the pictures, the clearing goes all the way into the water. There's material deposited in the water. And this materials, like Mr. Menasian just said, was transferred from one part of the property to the other. He attests that there was no fill imported from other areas. It's just a moving around of materials on site. Nevertheless, that's still fill material either in the BVW and on the bank of the pond and the land underwater, under the pond, and in the buffer zone of it all. That's unauthorized.
So the current order from 19, is that still open, Brandon?
No, that was closed out in 2019. So it's a fresh start.
So yeah, it'd be a whole new filing. Okay.
It would be a whole new filing, and you know, here's the thing: is I have a feeling that some BVW was filled in, and if you were to allow it to remain, they would have to replicate it somewhere on site at a ratio of at least 1-to-1 that of, you know, was filled into that which will be replicated. And there's not a whole heck of a lot of room here on the site to do that if you want to do, you know, and then there's the disturbance to the bank, and there are thresholds for disturbance to the bank, which is 50 linear feet or 10% of the total frontage of the lake on the property. Just me giving it some ocular estimation in the field says that they went over their 10%, which would require wildlife habitat evaluation by a certified wetlands, certified wildlife biologist. So there's a lot involved here with permitting.
That's crazy.
That's the Wetlands Protection Act and the Sutton Wetlands Protection Bylaw.
So we have an enforcement order and a cease and desist on this. Wanda, have you given the application to start this process to the applicant, or are we too premature for that?
I didn't even know about it.
Okay, I just was checking.
Yeah, so they would have to send me an email or something that I could send out the application. Is it a notice of intent or?
Yeah, this is going to have to be a notice of intent.
Okay.
Well, it's, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind me interjecting,
No, please.
you know, there's the discussion obviously can go in the direction of requiring filing a notice of intent. The question is whether or not you want to do that under enforcement order, or whether or not the commission just says, no, we want it restored, because that's another option.
The other issue is that the pond is owned by someone else. The whole pond.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know how that affects anything other than maybe they have to be notified.
I don't know. I would imagine.
I don't think that would have any impact. Mike McGovern, through the chair. So Brandon, so if we do it under an enforcement order, so the first thing we need is an as-built plan of what's done out there. And then the restoration plan of what they're gonna do to restore what they did. So I'll leave it up to the applicant as far as I'm concerned, whether he does a notice of intent or, because they're pretty much the same process, except for they won't have to file, right? They would just do it under an emergency order,
Enforcement order.
enforcement order, which would allow them to get it done quicker,
It would, yeah, it would.
which is in the best interest of that pond.
But, well, the enforcement order is, the plans that would come in with an enforcement order really more applicable to a restoration plan. One of the boxes you check off on the enforcement order is, you could say that a notice of intent is required within so many days of, you know, within a certain time period. Or you could just check off the box that says that restoration is required within a certain amount of time.
Whatever's easier to get this rectified is my recommendation. It's just, I think they have to understand that they have to do a plan either way. You know, they'll have to have somebody go out there with some knowledge and put a plan together.
Right, so the wetland would have to be redelineated. And a survey done, and then an engineering plan done to show pretty much an existing conditions plan of what's already been done, what the grading has been, how much fill material's been brought in, you know, all those things. So it's gonna have to be an engineered plan.
Plus all the trees that have, I mean, there's been a lot removed, I believe. I see trees that were on the other side of limited disturbance that don't seem to be there anymore. Now, how they're all missing isn't up for us to talk about. I'm not saying who did it. I'm just saying, I think that there's a lot of brush and trees and stuff missing on top of the dirt.
Right.
Can I jump in there, please, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman?
sir.
My name is Steven Ziccolello. This is my father's house that you're speaking about. Okay. I can say that as far as trees going in the backyard, no trees were cut down. A brush was removed. There were a lot of trees that were already on the ground that I removed and chopped up. But we did not cut down any trees in that back. And we took brush right up to the edge of the water or the beach area, whatever you want to call it, just to clear it out. And we did not put anything in that water at all. I was just here at the house, I want to say Tuesday I was, yesterday, and saw what was going on. And I can also reaffirm to you that there was no fill brought into the area. The dirt that was moved was from the original part of the front of the house, the driveway that we brought down there to try to level off my father's backyard. So whatever it takes to allow my father and his wife to go ahead and clean that mess up and get some grass growing, we'll surely follow your directions. But I just want to reassure everybody, we didn't just go in there with chainsaws and start hacking away and clearing that area up. As far as trees go anyways.
Mr. Chair, I think that this picture here is probably the best that we have. So this picture right here that you see is from August 7th, 2019, which is when I did the original inspection of the property. So I have the picture of the backyard, and this is what that area that got cleared out looked like before that. So it looks like there's a little more clear like in here. So maybe, you know, they're right about, you know, not cutting down any trees. Maybe they just cut down all this brush, because I did see like maybe one of these saplings still there, but there's still, you know, this whole area, you can see what it looked like back in 2019 and come to your own conclusion.
There was no backyard.
All right, so we're gonna need to have the forms filled and the engineering work. How long would you to the board, how long do you think we need on this one? I don't know if these guys would be ready in a couple of weeks to present what their restoration plan is and has built.
I highly doubt that anything's gonna get done in 2 weeks, Mr. Chairman. All the surveyors, all the engineers are like 2 months out.
Mr. Chairman, it's James.
Yes.
Do we want to, if it's going to take some time, Brandon, would it make sense to put in some wattles, or having all that exposed earth and rain and the proximity to the water? Are there intermediate steps that should be taken to keep the situation from getting any worse?
I already directed Mr. Benasian to erect silt fence around the perimeter of the disturbed area, which he's already, he states tonight that he's done that.
I emailed you pictures.
Okay. Here's another picture of, you know, you got the deck, and this is the mowed part of the backyard. So there really wasn't much of a backyard to speak of. And there was definitely a buffer of undisturbed vegetation between the edge of the lawn and Tucker Pond. There was never any like trail or anything that went down to the water's edge that I can remember.
It was.
Okay, so do you guys know what you need to do to get on to a meeting?
Well, the question is, Mr. Chairman, do you want to issue an enforcement order that formalizes all of it, or Or are you gonna leave it up to them and just keep track of it?
I'd like to do whatever's able for them to fix this as quick as possible, and I'm sure they want to get things back to normal too, so they can walk out there. Right now, it's a little bit probably difficult to use. I'll leave that up to the board to make a motion one way or another.
The intent here is just to put some grass in the backyard for my father. That's all it is.
Right. To Jamie, to Mike, Robin, and Zach. Need a motion one way or another, guys. Some form.
Can I plant grass there?
You have to
So
come through
I'll
the
make-
whole plan to.
Right, but in the meantime, would it be okay if I planted grass? To get grass growing there as soon as possible?
So I'll make a motion through the chair that we do this through an enforcement order. Let's try to make it so that they can do this by the next meeting. So what they're gonna have to do is see if they can get a wetland scientist to at least delineate the edge of what was filled in and what wasn't, because none of us are an expert at that. So there's so much disturbance right now, it's hard for us to define that line. So I think at the least, we need to define the line of the resource area. I would be okay if you could get that done by the next meeting, come in with some kind of a, that he at least had the edge flagged and that he understands where to bring the dirt back. And then we're gonna have to have some kind of a plan of some kind of plantings, I mean, something, which they could do, just once again, try to do it for the next meeting. But I don't think we could let a disturbance this big just go without some kind of documentation of having the work done and having it done correctly. I don't want to stop it. I don't want him to not plant grass. It's just he has to go through the same processes as anybody else would. So I think the quickest way is to do it under enforcement, Brandon. Would Brandon agree with that? So I'll make a,
That's the way that protects the commission the most, because what you'll do is you'll put definitive dates, by which it all has to progress by. And if it doesn't meet those deadlines, then the commission has the ability to take more serious action. And that will also hold up in district court if it ever goes there. And as we know, we've had to go there. And I see this as the opportunity to this time around, do it, quote unquote, right, if need be.
so why don't we give them 2 weeks till the next meeting to get back? Why don't we let them reach out to a wetland scientist to get some information to put it back correctly and get the lawn planted correctly? Because we have to make, like this fertilizer, planting a lawn, spraying hydro seed sometimes comes with fertilizers that I don't think we would, we just have to have an understanding of how to put this back. So it's not to not do it. I'm in favor of doing it. I'm in favor of putting the lawn and improving the property. It's just to do it correctly. So let's continue this till the next meeting. We ask that they reach out to a professional, give us some timelines of what they think they're going to need to do it right, and hope that we can do this without I think they pretty much need to file.
But at this point, don't issue a formal enforcement order. Just ask them to hire a wetland scientist to flag the wetland. And then in 2 weeks, we reconvene. And I presume that I would go out there when the flags are up, to go up there and do a review. And at this point, my presence on the property is completely at the will of the owner. So if they want to keep me off, they can keep me off.
If that speeds things up to getting their backyard together and it does it within some kind of compliance of the rules we should follow, I'm in favor of it. I do want it to be as easy as possible and as quickly as possible. So why don't we give it 2 more weeks and give them some chance to gather some information and try to find out how to get the wetland edge redefined and a plan of what they want to do to put it back. Maybe the wetland scientist could give them some advice and we could feel more comfortable to let them do the work. Does that sound like a plan with the rest of the board?
That
I
work
mean,
for
the goal
everybody?
ultimately is to get this restabilized and put back.
As soon as
quick-
possible.
Correct.
I'm In favor of Mike's plan, I say, let him have the 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll continue this one to May 19th at what time, Wanda?
We could put it on at 7 o'clock.
Okay. Would this
Okay.
be considered a public hearing at that point? Probably not, right? Is it still
No.
informal?
As a discussion.
7 o'clock discussion, okay,
Yeah, then you can go from there.
perfect.
It
All right,
sounds
thank you
like a
guys
plan.
all for
Thank
coming
you.
on. We'll see you 2 weeks from tonight at 7.
Yeah. All right,
Thank you.
sounds very good. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Thank you. Have a great night. Okay,
Sure.
so
Thank you.
we've pretty much gone through everything, and Brandon, I apologize about that. When I would have brought those guys on earlier instead of having them sit there and wait, I didn't have that in my notes.
I didn't
We've
either.
pretty much gone through the agenda. Is there anything else that anyone wants to discuss, or we good?
I think we're good.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Mike made a motion to adjourn. Zach seconded. Mike, how do you vote?
Aye.
Zach, how do you vote?
Aye.
Robin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jamie, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I, Bill Wentz, vote aye. Have a good night, everybody. See you in a couple
See ya.
weeks.
Yep.
Good night.
All right.